Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Crazy Kitsune Gaming with the beginning of the Stellaris walkthrough. Yeah, long time no see. I have literally finished out an entire series and started up an entirely new one since I've last uploaded a video on this. And yeah, you have my apologies. But this is still a game that I play, believe it or not, and I wouldn't blame you for not believing me. But today we're finally getting into the main walkthrough of the game. So yeah, first let me sort of describe the nation that we're going to be playing as today. So, for our traits, this is the Free Fenzo Republic, by the way. And we are unruly, so we get more empire size from our population, not very good. We are also fleeting, so we live incredibly short lives, but we are resilient. That means we are good at defending our planets. And we're also very strong, making all military matters a great deal easier. We're also quick learners, which means that our leaders will learn quicker. Yeah, kind of what it says on the tin. As for our ethics and civics, we are fanatic xenophiles, and I kind of forgot to explain this when talking about how to make a nation. You have 3 ethics points, and if you want, you can make one of your ethics fanatic, which will cost 2 ethics points, but double up the effects of that ethic. So that is something I want to say, as I sort of failed to mention it for the first video. We are also militarist, which again makes military matters easier. We also have a warrior culture, which makes our military even stronger. And it also means that our entertainers are better. And we're also environmentalists, which means we don't eat up many consumer goods. Now, I didn't really make a proper biography for them, but basically, they were made by these weird, hairless mammalian creatures known as humans that essentially genetically modified them to be a food source and a source of leather for clothing. Over time, however, some of the other humans thought that what was happening to the Fenzo was rather cruel, and eventually took them onto transport ships and put them on their current homeworld, known as Auerden. So that is basically the origin of the Fenzo Republic. They basically got left on their world with no other real interference, and they eventually evolved. It took them quite a few wars, quite a few, different conquests that happened, but they've now finally made it up into space. Now, before we actually get into this officially, there is something I should mention. Any nation that you've created can actually show up in the games that you play of Stellaris. So let's say the Talico Military Republic. Let's imagine that this was the last nation you played as, and you've made a new one, but you haven't deleted this old nation, which you probably shouldn't, because, you know, what if you want to play this one again? Well, they can actually randomly spawn in as another nation that shows up. So if you get lucky, then you can actually play with your past self, essentially. Kind of fun. You can also actually change the spawn settings so you can force them to spawn into the game. Or if you want, you can keep them from spawning outright so they don't show up. So yeah, I figured to show that off, I'm gonna force them to spawn in. However, because our ethics are so similar, they're fanatic militarist and xenophiles, I figure let's also add in a nation whose ethics are basically the exact opposite of ours. So that way we have a nation who we are definitely going to have to destroy to the last man. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're gonna go ahead and start setting this game up properly. So then, here is, once you've made your nation, and you've chosen which one you want to play, then you get into all this mess. What does any of this even mean? Well, I'm going to explain it. So right now, this is sort of the default setup. I have made sure that Yep, it's all been reset to default. So this is the galaxy size. So basically, every star is going to be this little piece of territory that you need to sort of negotiate around and think about. So you can turn this up if you want. I usually play at about 600. And here on Console Edition, we're capped here at 600. And also keep in mind that certain sizes of galaxy will give you more choices of what galaxy shape you want. So it will start off on elliptical, but you can make it a sort of ring, which, yeah, it's basically a ring. And you can also decide to make it a spiral if you want to, which definitely makes things complicated. But if you were to go down to medium, then one of the spiral types is gone. Because you can have a spiral with 2 arms, or if you're playing on 600 stars, you can have one with 2 arms. But that option is gone if you're down to medium. And if you decide to play on 200, which, why would you ever? That's just, that game is going to go by in 2 seconds. Then all you have is ring and elliptical. This will hopefully change in future updates, so don't worry too much about it. Now then, the AI empires. So basically here is where you choose how many different types of AI empires that are going to spawn in. Usually if you have it higher, then things are going to be more difficult. But they have it defaulted at 6, so I'm actually going to take it up to 7 to make life a bit more difficult. That way, because there's so much variation in this game, then you can hopefully follow my advice and be able to beat the average playthrough of Stellaris. And that will be especially true if I make it just a little bit harder. Also, keep in mind, whatever type of nation you're playing as, and the game designers have tried to say it so much, but it is true, if you play as a sort of, like, let's say something like a democratic, xenophile type nation, then the game will be biased towards spawning in nations that are going to be more nasty. So you're going to end up with more xenophobes and militarists if you're something like that. And if you play as something like a, you know, a fanatically xenophobic militarist nation, then you're going to get surrounded by democracies and sorts of other super friendly nations that will all band together and, yeah, do nasty stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. So because we're playing Fanatic Xenophile Militarist, we can expect to see some xenophobic pacifist. So that's going to be annoying. Oh yeah, advanced starts. So basically, this means that some of the regular AI empires will start with a initial advantage, like they will have a bit more technology as soon as the game starts, making them more powerful. They'll start off with more territory than you, and oh yeah, it just makes things, fun times with advanced starts. So because that makes the game harder, we're going to be playing with 2 of them, even though it usually only has 1. Oh yeah, Fallen Empires. So basically, this controls the maximum number of Fallen Empires that are allowed to spawn in the galaxy. So Fallen Empires are basically very advanced nations that start with some very incredible technology and some very difficult to bust bases in their territory. But the good thing is they don't really expand, and they don't really try to conquer much of anybody. So they're basically can be safely ignored as long as you don't make them too angry. Let's go ahead and add a second one. And keep in mind, you can have more nations if you go with a bigger galaxy. So that is another reason to play on a bigger galaxy. Especially if you're not stuck down here like me with an Xbox One, where the game slows down to a crawl anytime the game is over 1,000 populations. Alright, Marauder Empires. Now this is something you won't have to worry about if you don't have the DLCs. But basically, this controls how many sort of marauder, basically pirate nations that are going to appear in the galaxy. Now, the good thing is, pirate nations like these marauders can't outright conquer you and kill you, but they can be incredibly annoying. And sometimes they can turn into something that will outright conquer and kill you, but it doesn't happen too often. So to make life harder on myself, I'm going to be adding 2 of them. Also, tech tradition cost. Yeah, so essentially this means that you can research technology to make yourself more powerful, and learn traditions to also make yourself more powerful. This sort of modifies the cost. I wouldn't really mess with it too much. I mean, to be fair, taking it down to, like, 0.25 is really fun, but keep in mind, AI nations are also benefiting from that, so just be careful and have that in mind. Yes, habitable worlds. So basically, the higher you crank this up, then the more planets that there will be available for you to colonize. And I usually play it at ×5, which is why I tend to wonder why everything takes so long and days take multiple seconds to pass. Yeah, let's bump that back down. Primitive civilizations. So basically, a primitive civilization is this sort of planet that has a species on it that hasn't quite gotten to the point that you are. They can't sort of leave their planets or colonize anything outside their borders. In fact, you can actually even take the systems with the primitive civilization, and they can't really do much about it. So, honestly, depending on the type of nation you have, they are kind of nice to have around. But we're going to be leaving it normally. Ah, yes, Crisis Strength. This controls rules whether endgame crisis are allowed to appear in your game. And yeah, you can make them stronger. You can make them all the way up to... 25 times more powerful. But we're going to be going ahead and leaving it at, 1 for now. And yeah, crisis type. So basically this controls which endgame crisis may happen, so long as they are not turned off in the crisis strength setting. So basically, as long as we leave it on random, any one of them can spawn. Just, like, complete potluck as to which one you're going to get. However, if you set it to one of them, then it guarantees that that crisis will happen. You can also set it to all, which means they will all happen, one after another. Sadly, I don't think you can have it so they all happen at once. But I think we're just going to be going with all. That way we get to show off, well, all of the crisis. They are extremely deadly, and it could be the death of this video. It may not be a complete full walkthrough because of it, but I think it's going to be fun. At the very least, it will be educational, so you get to see every single one of them. Oh yeah, also the mid-game and end-game start years. So basically there are certain events that happen at these certain dates. So you can sort of push them back or set them forward if you want to. So like there is, for example, a certain situation where the Marauder Empires, you know, the ones that are basically these little pirate nations, can actually become full-on complete conquerors, and even become a full-on just regular nation if they do well enough. And that counts as a sort of mid-game event. So the earlier you have this set, the quicker and more likely that sort of situation is to happen. So do keep that in mind. And as for the endgame start year, that is for the endgame crisis and situations like that. So that is what that represents. Oh yeah, and there's also the victory year, but like, who cares about the victory year? People don't even care about that. Yeah, there is technically a win condition in Stellaris that you can meet. There is like a score in the game, but like, 90% of people who play the game don't even care. Like, the win screen, what in the world is that? What are you chatting about? Now then, the difficulty. So basically, this sets how hard the game is. So the easier the difficulty, then you'll actually get a few bonuses on things like Civilian and Cadet. But if you take it up to Ensign, then things are normal. I've wouldn't suggest doing that for the first time you play, because nations do tend to be a bit smarter than you, especially when you first start off. And then if you take it anything above that, then it just turns absolutely ridiculous. Oh my god, look at how they make Grand Admiral look. Oh my goodness. Look at that skull. There's so many of them and they're red. Yeah, let's not do that. We're just going to be playing on Ensign. This is going to be painful. Because if you take it on Cadet, then you are actually able to field a bit of a larger military than most enemies. But it's kind of necessary, because there will be quite often times where you have multiple nations hounding you at once, trying to take all of your stuff. So I would actually recommend playing on Cadet. That might be what I do. Actually, yeah, I am going with Cadet. Because it's still easier than Civilian. In fact, they actually only added Civilian to Console Edition quite recently. Oh my god, it puts me to sleep. It actually makes the game feel a bit too easy. And this is Stellaris. This is like, it's basically impossible for this game to feel too easy. And then scaling difficulty. Oh yeah, I actually kind of forgot this was the thing. I've never really played with it on. So basically, when this is enabled, then the bonuses that AIs get from extremely high difficulties to like Captain, Commodore, Admiral, things like that, then the scaling difficulty means that they will actually only get those bonuses over time. Like, it will actually take a few years for their bonuses to kick themselves into gear. So, it's interesting. Sometimes, like, I really don't know. Because, again, I've never really played with it, so maybe my opinion on this isn't really holding much weight, but, like, I don't know. I just don't think scaling difficulty is that interesting. It does what it does on the tin, and not much more. Oh yes, difficulty adjusted AI modifiers. This is a new thing for Console Edition. So basically, what these things do is it means that the bonuses that the AI gets late game will become much stronger. So, like, when they research certain technologies, this means that those technologies will be more potent than they already are. So, like, let's say they've researched, like, a blue laser, and let's say that, you know, that laser would do, like, 13 damage for you. Instead, it's gonna do, like, 20 for them. Let's say they found a technology that means that they get 20% more food. Well, now it's giving them 40% more food. It's ridiculous. And you can also get into, when you get really late into the game, you can run into technologies that will slowly make everything about 5 to 10% stronger, and you can research those to infinity. Well, now it's going to be giving them 10 to 20% more power in whatever that repeatable technology is. So, yeah, this thing is a little bit intense. I would only turn it on if you want to give yourself the hardest time possible. AI aggressiveness. So, basically, this does what it says. The higher you have this, then the more likely an AI is to declare war on you. Now, keep in mind, you can't go past high. There isn't some absolutely ridiculous setting where you can set it so everybody declares war on everybody no matter what. No, even on high, they will only attack you if they don't like you, and if they see a reason to take your territory. So do keep in mind, even on max aggressiveness, they won't declare war on you if they like you. Now, we're actually going to be playing with it on high, because, like, I'm already on Cadet instead of Ensign, which is more difficult than I would recommend, but, you know, it is still going to be a little bit easier for us. We are going to get a slightly larger military, but not by much. So, to counteract that, we'll just set this on high. Empire placement. This controls whether empires should spawn in clusters or randomly placed across the galaxy. We're just going to leave it at random. And it does mean that if you set to clusters, then you'll be these sort of clusters of nations. And it means that you start off with massive wars super quickly. Advanced neighbors. Yeah, we're going to leave this off. This controls whether empires with advanced AI starts are permitted to spawn near a player. Having this on may result in less than the specified number of advanced starts being generated. So basically what this means is all the way up here earlier with the advanced starts, if you leave that off, then it means that they will try to keep them away from you. Like, let's say you spawned near the top of the galaxy, they will try to make sure that all of the advanced starts are near the middle or on the complete other side, so that you're not having to deal with them up in your face the moment you start. So that is what that means. And honestly, yeah, I'm gonna leave advanced neighbors off. So, hyperlane density multiplies the standard number of hyperlanes that would be generated in the galaxy. So basically, the hyperlanes are what you use to move from system to system. So basically, the higher this is, the easier it will be to move around. And, oh, full. Well, does that just mean that every system can connect to every adjacent system? I did not notice that. I never jacked this up to max. I should play with that sometime. But yeah, I usually play with this at 1.25. But this is just gonna be a bog standard playthrough, so we'll leave it at 1. Abandoned gateways multiplies the number of abandoned gateways that will be in the galaxy. So yeah, abandoned gateways are basically these, well, gateways that you can repair, and any gateway will connect to any other gateway that is also active and repaired. And you can also build your own at some point. So we're just gonna leave that as is. Wormhole pairs. So wormholes are like gateways, except one wormhole can only take you to the other wormhole. So they're like gateways, but less useful. L-gates. This is something that you'll only really have access to if you have the DLCs. And I've actually decided, because most people who play this game for their first time aren't gonna have the DLCs, I'm gonna try and not take anything that benefits. I will be having no things that benefit from the DLCs, so like any particular tradition I can take that's from a DLC, I will be disallowing. And I realize my nation is actually already good for this because I don't have any DLC civics with the Free Fenzo Republic. Now, this is the guaranteed habitable worlds. So basically what this does is it means that it will always spawn planets that your species can inhabit somewhere nearby. So basically, because our species has continental preference, then it will try to spawn 2 continental worlds nearby us. That way we actually have something to actually expand into. Caravanners. So basically these are just going to be merchants. Most of them come from the DLCs, so we won't be really able to interact with them. But I'll leave them on, that way the AI can use them if they want to. Oh yeah, and xenocompatibility. I'm gonna leave this off, because I'm pretty sure it comes from a DLC. Next time we play, I'm definitely turning it on. We're gonna be doing some funny business with the Xenos, believe me. Yes, logistic growth ceiling. So this is when we start getting into really technical things. So because this game runs so badly, then they had to make this setting where basically you can decide how quickly population grows. So this sort of ceiling means that at certain points in a planet's population, then they will get sort of bonuses to their population growth. So basically, the higher this is, the quicker they're going to grow at certain points. There's also growth required scaling. This one is a setting I really don't like, and if you could just play Stellaris without it, I would recommend it. Like, if your computer is beefy enough, just turn this off outright. It is not fun to play with. Basically, what it means is that as you get more and more population, then the next populations will take longer and longer to grow. So it means that once you start getting to a high population, getting a new population is very, very painful. If you possibly have any ability to turn this setting off, if you have a beefy computer, or you're playing some modded version of Stellaris, that means that, you know, populations don't slow the game down as much, then please, for your own sanity, turn this off. Sadly, I'm stuck here on an Xbox One, so maybe this is a good setting. I just know that it's not very fun to play with, whatsoever. And Iron Man mode. So basically in Iron Man mode, you know my saying, maybe you haven't heard it from me yet, but my saying is save early and save often. That way if you make a mistake, you can just drop back to the old save, and it'll be a-okay. If you turn Iron Man mode on, you can't do that. And sadly, you can't get achievements in the game if it's off, which kinda sucks, because there are some nasty things that you can run into that are just completely not your fault. Like, there are some glitches that can be absolutely devastating, and you could just never be able to recover from them if you have Iron mode on. So, we're going to be leaving it off, actually. And that's all the settings. Oh my god. So, I guess we can finally play now. Maybe I'll put a timestamp in for when I'm finally through this. Dear god. Okay. Play. Are you sure you want to start? Dear god, we've been here for almost half an hour. Yes, we can start. Alright. Starting new game. Now watch this load bar. This load bar knows black magic. So it's going forward. It's going forward. There you go. Now it's staying still. It's gonna do something really funky here. I know it. I absolutely know it. Or maybe it's just gonna stay stuck there. Okay, that's weird. I might have to cut some of this out. I'll see you when it does something interesting, I suppose. I mean, at least it gives you pretty art. You have to say that much. Okay, it's been sitting here for several minutes now, and this is actually the second time it's brought me this loading screen art, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and have to close the game, and I'll be back once we're attempting to load again. I told you this loading bar would do some black magic. Oh wait, no, it's finally moving, and it just did the black magic. Oh, I may not have been able to show you it. It actually moved backwards in the loading bar. Why did you stay stuck in the same position for so long? Okay, we're finally in. So, there we are. We're the Free Fenzo Republic. And if you haven't made your own biography, then it will sort of make a biography for you that it will show you when you first start off the game. So, we are going to begin. Okay, so what does our starting system look like? Well, we have our good little home planet of Auradin. We have Pollen Cloud, which is a toxic world. We have a molten world. We have Ferx C. Oh wait, hold on. Oh, cool. Oh, we started in a 3-star system, didn't we? Yeah, we have Ferx A. Which, by the way, every time I play the Free Fenzo Republic, we either get a white or a purple star. One of the two, nothing else. So, yeah. You actually have 3 stars, because technically, this is a brown dwarf, a Class D, and it counts as a star. And wow, it's a kind of a big-looking system. Okay. So then, let's start explaining some things. So, first thing you're going to want to do, and keep in mind, this is for console edition, so I will be describing it with console buttons. We'll want to go down with our right stick and, yes, we can see everything now. Oh, wow. Ooh, that's interesting. We are trapped in. We don't actually have any direction to go, except to this system. Okay. So, let's start making heads or tails of what is going on here. So, first things first, let's go ahead and look at our little planet here. So, basically, this is a menu that will show you the planet and what's going on. It's a size 18. Thank you very much, Stellaris. So, you probably don't know this yet, but I'm about to explain it to you, and I'm about to rant in your ear about it. It can start off the planet size as anything from 18 to 22. 18 is literally the smallest it can give you, and it gives it to me every time. I am sorry if I shouted anger into the microphone, but it is so annoying how consistently it will always give me the smallest homeworld possible. It sucks so much. Because there are very limited ways in how you can make a planet bigger, unfortunately. Oh yeah, and you can also see in this part of the menu any modifiers on the planet. So, because of our Prosperous Unification origin, which is the default origin, then we actually get a nice happiness, amenities, and resource bonus here in the homeworld. Now, we do have a lot of things we can look at. We have some planetary features. These ones are blockers, unfortunately. And we'll be needing to get rid of all but one of those. And we will be getting to that. You can see the planet class here, and apparently this one has 100% habitability for Fenzo. You can see its size. Shag you, Stellaris, for making it so small once again. You can also see the sectors. These things are really complicated, and we'll get into them later. Also, there are certain planets where you can set a sort of designation for them, so you can specialize them into making a specific resource. You can't do that with the capital, but we'll get to it. And yes, you can also have orbital rings around planets. They're pretty good, I would recommend them, but that's a long way from now. And you can also ascend them with a certain amount of unity. We're nowhere close to there yet. You also have a few decisions that you can make, like ceasing robot assembly. There's no real need to do this. You can also declare martial law for when you have way too much crime on the planet, because yes, crime is another thing you can do it. You can also discourage planetary growth. Don't ever do this, population already grows way too slow in this game. Why would you ever slow it down more? You can also distribute luxury goods, which makes people really happy and want to come to the planet. You can also send artifacts to museum exhibits, which makes your bureaucrats more useful. Although we don't have any artifacts, so can't really do that. Now, we also have a governor for the planet. Petals of Blue is their name. Now, if you want, you can actually change up leaders and recruit new ones. We're not going to do that yet. Leaders do cost unity, and we'll get into how to make that very shortly. But yeah, they sort of give bonuses to your planets. The governors in particular will increase your resources from jobs, the empire size from population, and crime. You can also get leaders with certain traits to them. For example, this one is a unifier, so they make more unity from bureaucrats. That's actually really good because, well, we'll need unity. You can also rename the planet if you want. I am perfectly satisfied with calling it Aurden. So then, now we can finally get into looking at the surface. So, there are 5 different types of districts you can have on the average planet. That is, city districts, industrial districts, generator districts, mining districts, and agriculture districts. So what do each of these do? Well, the city district will give you housing. You need housing for your populations. Usually each population will take 1 housing. So each person on the planet, and right now we have a population of 32, each of them are going to need their own little bit of housing. So you can build more city districts and provide more housing for people. Right now we have 8 housing spare, so not really a problem. Now, industrial districts. So these will give you... Oh wait, I forgot to explain. Yes, city districts give a job, but it's kind of a forgettable job. They give you clerk jobs. Clerk jobs will produce you trade value, which can basically translate that into the game's money. And they also give you amenities. Amenities make people happy. And if your people are happy, they work harder. They also give you a building slot. So basically, these little things down here that are locked, you can get more of them by building city districts. And we'll get into explaining all these buildings here fairly soon. But first, we need to talk about the industrial district. So, these give you 2 housing, and oh, that's another thing I forgot. Each district you have has a upkeep of 2 energy credits, as they're called in this game. Basically money. So do keep in mind, yeah, it is good to have a lot of districts, but if you don't have many people actually working them, maybe hold off on making them. So the industrial districts give you an artisan job and a metallurgist job. So basically what the artisans will do is they will turn up minerals, which is the resource beside the energy credits up there at top, and it will turn them into consumer goods. You need consumer goods to sort of upkeep your population. Depending on how many consumer goods you're giving them through either their living standards or just distributing luxury goods, then the happier they are and the harder they will work. Now, the industrial district will also give you a metallurgist job. Metallurgist will turn minerals into alloys. Alloys are basically what you need for any sort of ship that you build, any sort of station, anything like that. All military matters will require alloys, so you generally want to have a good stockpile of them. Now then, generator districts. So, generator districts give you 2 housing and also 2 technician jobs. Technicians produce energy credits. So basically, energy credits are your currency of the game. You use them to upkeep all of the other districts, you use them to upkeep your military, and yeah, energy credits, they're just a nice thing to have absolute loads of. Mining districts. So these ones give you 2 housing, and also 2 miner jobs. Miners produce minerals. Minerals by themselves aren't really that helpful, but the industrial districts can be used to turn the minerals into consumer goods and alloys. You see how things all interconnect. You need the mining district to run the industrial district, and you need the generator district to have districts in general, and oh yeah, it's all very complicated. And also, last, and probably least, agriculture districts. So basically, these give 2 housing and 2 farmer jobs, and farmers will produce you food. Food is there to upkeep all of your biological populations. So, basically anyone that isn't a robot or a rock. So, that is all of the districts. Now then, we also have all the special buildings. But first, let's get into the population and what this menu is talking about. So basically here, you can see the planet production. Now, you do have a certain amount of base production just for existing, but your farmer jobs, minings, technicians, politicians, yes, even politicians make something, believe it or not. Not usually, but sometimes they do something. Researchers, metallurgists, so all of these others will add on to your resources, and you generally need a lot of them. More resources is very good. You can also see the upkeep of everything. So currently our buildings and districts are taking up 13 and 8 energy credits. And it also shows which districts and jobs are taking up which resources. So, yeah, that's actually a very helpful menu to see what is causing what. You can also see the planet status. So, one of the most important things to have is stability. You get a base of 50 stability, and we're actually getting plus 10 from the difficulty we're on. You can also get some from jobs that can be done. Basically, stability, the higher it is, the more efficient that your populations are going to be. So let's say that this planet had like 2 stability. Then these 4 miners down here, they would probably be producing like, let's say, 25 minerals instead of 32. But if we had things at 100% stability, they could be producing 4 minerals for all we know. Now, another important thing to keep in mind is happiness. Happiness is kind of like stability. It can serve the same purpose as stability, and by having a lot of happiness, you can have more stability. So basically, the higher the happiness, once again, the higher the population output. So, like, the politicians would be doing more of nothing, and the metallurgist would be making more alloys if we had a lot of happiness. So that is a good thing to have, and generally jacking up your happiness as much as possible is very good. We also have housing. You always want to have a certain excess of housing. Like 8 housing is fine, but like 20 housing is better. Because if you don't have enough housing, your populations have more trouble growing, and we'll be going into population growth very soon, don't worry. Now then, the last resource they show up here is amenities. Well, actually, there is one other. Crime. Now, crime is actually not much of a problem. Most of the time. Now, because we're Fanatic Xenophile, we get a lot of economy from our trade value. And criminals, which are produced by crime, will actually take away trade value. So basically, for every population on the planet, it's going to generate just a little bit of crime. Now, if you have a very skilled and high-level governor, they can take down the crime a decent chunk. And they're also another type of job that can deal with it. See, most jobs actually produce something very useful, except the enforcers. They do produce planetary defense armies, which we'll talk about soon, and they do give a point of stability, so that's nice, but their main use is negative 25 crime. So by having more enforcers, you can keep crime lower and lower, and that means that your trade value isn't going to be absolutely devoured. You can also get quite a few negative events from crime that can take away populations and resources, so yeah, kind of want to stamp out crime as quickly as possible. Now then, the last and not least thing in this part of the planet status is amenities. So basically, amenities can, the more of them you have, then the happier your population is going to be. Now, populations, the more of them there are, the more of those amenities that are going to be eaten up. So you need to keep your amenities on the high, basically. Because if they go down into negative, then it will actually start chipping away at your population's happiness. So that is something to keep in mind. You want to keep those amenities up. Good thing is, there are lots of jobs that can produce them, like entertainers and politicians. Can't think of a politician in my life who's made me happy, but okay. And yeah, there are lots of ways to produce amenities. You're mostly going to get them from your clerk jobs. And honestly, some say it's the only reason to have a clerk. I mean, they do something, not a whole lot. It's, 6 amenities and 12 trade value. Don't fire all your clerks. So, yeah, that is the planet status menu sort of explained. And if you found my explaining wasn't good enough, and honestly I could understand that, then you can see and they will explain everything here. Oh yeah, like, here's something I didn't know. You actually get immigration pull from having free housing. Immigration really isn't important for us right now yet, but, you know, it's there. And now, population. So, we have 32 populations, and in this menu, we'll show available jobs, and the jobs that are being done, and what sort of strata that those jobs are at. And hey, we don't have any unemployed, so we're already doing better than America right now. So that's a good thing. Now then, here is where you can see your population growth. So right now, the growth progress we're making is plus 2.89 per month. And we will need a total of 108 to get a new population. So in 38 months, then we will finally get a new population. Yeah, it takes a long, long time. And apparently we're getting negative 10 from having a high population. Yeah, I really don't like negative population growth modifiers. The growth is decreased because the population is approaching the planet capacity. So basically, you can increase the capacity by having more housing. So if you want to grow more population there, build a bit more housing, is generally the solution there. Now, you can also increase it through other methods. There are technologies that can increase it. And you can also get it from immigration, which isn't really helpful for us right now. We'll talk about it when we run into it. Now then, all of these jobs, I'm definitely not going to go over all of them right now, but here's a quick rundown. Politicians. They produce amenities and unity, and you get some every single time you have this Capitol building upgrade. It's this little planetary administration. Yeah, mostly they produce politician jobs. And they also give you, you know, corporate buildings. Not really important if you don't have a mega corporation around. And also building slots, along with some amenity and housings, and an enforcer job. Also, the researchers. The most important job in the game. You need to have as many of these as possible if you want to be powerful. They basically will turn consumer goods into research points. And you can use those research points to research different technologies, which we will get into soon enough. You also have bureaucrats who turn consumer goods into Unity. How exciting. Just like a bureaucrat's job in real life. We also have metallurgists, which turn minerals into alloys. Artisans who turn minerals into consumer goods. And remember, you need consumer goods to keep your researchers going, and your bureaucrats. Can't forget the bureaucrats, they're just so important. And we also have our workers. Now do keep in mind, there are 3 different stratas of workers. You have the rulers, specialists, and the normal workers. Now, depending on what type of nation you have, the higher stratas, like the rulers and specialists, will have a higher upkeep. Now, I don't think that's really going to be the case for how we're going to be approaching it, but that is something to keep in mind. And of course, you have all the worker jobs, like your clerks, technicians, miners, farmers. Oh yeah, and rangers. Which really isn't something you need to worry about unless you're environmentalist. But, you know, they're a nice job. They give society research and amenities. And we've already talked about how nice it is to have amenities. Now then, the last little bit of this is your armies. So basically, this is where you can assemble new armies, and if there is someone trying to invade the planet, or vice versa, if you're invading a planet, then you can come into this menu and see how the battle is going in general. You can also come down here to make assault armies, so yeah, I guess, and we'll wait before we make one, because they do have an energy upkeep. And here you can see your defense armies, which can basically stop the planet from being taken over. And apparently we're getting a 50% bonus to their defense army damage because we're resilient, and an additional 60% because of our species and civics. So yeah, we have some very devastating armies. You can also come here to hire a general who can defend the planet, or even go and invade other planets. So then, let's finally talk about all these different buildings. So, of course, you have the planetary administration. You will always have some level of this on every planet. You can't remove it ever, basically. No matter if it's a new colony or completely built up, you're always going to have a variant of this building at some level. So keep that in mind. But they give you more building slots, amenities, and housing, so it's really not much to complain about. Now, you also have the administrative offices. These give you those bureaucrat jobs. And bureaucrats are good because they can produce you unity, which is not helpful immediately, but it is a good resource to have, and we'll get into why once it pops up. We also have research labs, which are even better than administrative offices, as they let you research technology, and technology is the absolute key to power in this game. Oh yeah, and also the Ranger Lodge. Not going to be important unless you actually have the Environmentalist Civic. But basically these give you ranger jobs, which give you society research, so they're making us more powerful, and they give more amenities. They also increase the unity from naturally occurring blockers. We'll get into what blockers are and how they're important later. We also have commercial zones, which gives us 3 clerks. Oh, I'm so thrilled. Well, I'm so happy to have my 3 clerks. Now, you can also come to this free building slot, and again, you can get more of these by building more of the city districts. And yeah, we can build more administrative offices. Oh, I need to take a breath. We've been doing this for quite a bit. There is a lot to explain in this game. Oh, I'm back. Okay. Alloy foundries. So these things will give you 2 metallurgist jobs. So they're like an industrial district, except they take up a building slot. And as you research technologies, then this building will make your other metallurgist a bit more powerful. So yeah, it's a nice little building to have. Oh yes, Octathon Monument. Yeah, I would always recommend having one of these. In fact, you can't have more than one on your homeworld, just as soon as you can. So, basically, this gives 5% more unity from jobs. It also gives you culture workers, who, fun fact, give you a bit of unity. And they also will give you... They turn consumer goods into unity, naval capacity, population upkeep reduction, and governing ethics attraction. Now, the culture workers' effects vary depending on the Empire's ethics. So, because we are militarist, they're giving us 2 naval capacity. And I guess it comes from Xenophile, is what's reducing the population upkeep reduction. So, yeah, that means that our population will need less food and consumer goods. So, that's pretty good. And yeah, we will be trying to build one of these very, very soon. We also have the civilian industries. These give you 2 artisan jobs, and the artisans produce consumer goods by turning the minerals into those consumer goods. And yeah, consumer goods are really good to have because they can help you get more researchers. Oh yeah, and commercial zones. These will be good, but we're going to need a bit more unity before they are. Right now they just give 3 clerks, and we do not need 3 more clerks. Oh yes, Hollow Theaters. Now keep in mind this is another situation where because of my civics, this building looks way better than it usually is. So Duelist will turn your alloys into unity, amenities, and naval capacity. So it's a nice job. I don't really like the idea of sacrificing alloys for naval capacity, but it's probably better than it seems to me. I'm just kind of, always paranoid of getting attacked really early on, so I don't like sacrificing alloys, but it is a nice job to have. And this only comes because we have the warrior culture civic. So yeah, we'll be trying to get one of those down on the planet as well. We also have luxury residences. These things suck. Don't build them. They don't give you anything except for 3 housing and 5 amenities. Now, the one upside to them is, hey, at least they don't require population. That's 3 amenities. Well, not free, it still has the 2 energy upkeep that every building has. But yeah, I don't think it's a very good building. If it gave more housing than amenities, I would probably be more into it, but as is, nah, not a fan. Precinct houses. These give more enforcer jobs, and the enforcers will, produce those defense armies and increase stability and reduce crime. Here's the thing, though. You want to have as few of these things on your planets as possible. Generally, it's going to be better to make something like a holo theater and increase the amenities than decrease the crime. Because if the people are happy, then they're generally not going to want to be criminals. So, really, the precinct house is just a less effective way of dealing with crime. It's better to just make outright amenities, in my opinion. Maybe I'm completely wrong, maybe I'm an idiot, but nah, this isn't a good building. Research labs. Now this is a good building. This is like the best building in the entire game. These give 2 researcher jobs. Researchers turn consumer goods into research points of physics, society, and engineering. They do eat up consumer goods, and of course their energy upkeep, but they are a really good job to have. Because technology is basically the ultimate power of this game. If you have enough technology, you can do anything. Oh yeah, resource silos. This is a building that exists, apparently. So yeah, you can only hold so many of certain resources. Your food, minerals, and alloys, stuff like that. You can only have so much of it. So, you can build these to increase how much of it you can hold. It's nice, I guess, but there's a more effective way to increase how much you can hold. And also strongholds. They're also a very good building, and we're probably going to try and make one here on the homeworld. Basically, soldiers will increase your naval capacity and spawn defense armies. Now, there is a better way to get naval capacity that doesn't require a population working it, but defense armies also make planets a bit harder to take, so they're pretty good in my book. Okay, now that we're finally done talking about all that, we can move on to the planetary features. So basically, these determine what resources you can have on it. Because as you notice with the mining districts, for example, we can only have so many of them. Yeah, it says that it currently has 2 out of 6 maximum mining districts possible. And that it comes from the planetary features. So we're getting these mining districts from the Ore-veined Cliffs, the Prosperous Mesa, and the Rich Mountain. If these weren't here, we wouldn't really be able to mine. But we also have certain features that are nothing but negative, like this industrial wasteland. Basically, all it does is it just blocks up a district. That's an entire district that we sadly cannot build because it's there. And also, once we clear it, then it will unblock 2 agriculture districts. And yeah, we have 2 of these things here. This one is blocking mining districts. And of course a sprawling slum, which will give us another population. So then, now that that's all covered, we should probably talk about this crazy thing called research that I've been going absolutely on and on about like a madman. So basically, let's go into the proper menu. So this here is the outliner. Basically, this here can show you all the different things you have, like your stations, your military fleets, your civilian ships, which we'll definitely have to be learning how to order around very soon, and also your planet. But most importantly, and what we're going to be interacting with now, is our research. So, by going into this menu, then you can find a certain list of technologies that you can start researching using all of those research points produced by scientists. Now, whenever we finish researching a technology, up to 3 new options will be generated. You can take certain civics and learn of certain technologies that mean that you'll have more options. So what are our options here? Administrative AI, which increases our research speed by 5%, which basically means all of those research points that we get are more and more effective. We can also take this quantum theory tech, which means that we will actually be getting more physics from our researchers. Also pretty nice to have. We can also take the global energy management, which basically will give us a certain edict, which, yeah, we'll have to go into edicts here pretty soon. And it also means that if we build this building, then we'll get a new technician job, and we will get an additional energy credit from all of our technicians. So yeah, pretty nice to have. For now, we're going to go with administrative AI for our physics research. But see, there's 3 branches of research: society, engineering, and, well, you know, physics, which we've already gone over. You always want to be researching in this game. If you're not researching something, you are actively falling behind. Don't not research. So, here we have off-world trade companies, which is basically a special star-based building that, we'll get into stuff like that later. We also have biodiversity studies, more society research from researchers, very good, because research is the ultimate power in this game. And also planetary unification, which will give us a chunk of unity, increase our monthly unity by +5, and also gives us additional edicts, which honestly at this rate we'll have to get into in an entirely different episode. For now, we will go with biodiversity studies. And now then, engineering. So, we can take 0G refineries, which increases our mining station output by 10%, which, in case you didn't know, mining stations are these little things we have around our planetary bodies. So like our sun here has a mining station here that gives us energy. So that will actually be producing us more energy once we research this technology. We can also research ceramo metal materials, which unlocks the ceramo metal armor, which basically we can install onto our ships and stations, and it also leads us down a certain infrastructure path. There are some technologies where when you research it, then it will give you more options that are somewhat related to it. So by researching this, then we would get more technology to improve our infrastructure. So do keep that in mind with certain technologies. And also coil guns. So basically these are a kinetic weapon that we can install on stations and ships that are more effective than our current. You start off with mass drivers and, like, you know, they sound cool, mass drivers, but like they kind of suck. Coil guns are better. But for now, we're going to go with 0G refineries. Oh, there's just so much to explain with this game. We haven't even really gotten out of our system. Now, I should tell you, if you press the Y button, that will start moving the game forward. So always remember, if you have a lot of things to take care of and plan out, keep the game paused until you're ready for things to move forward. But yeah, unfortunately, that is going to have to be the end of the episode. This has dragged on quite long, and I mean, dang, this is 2 episodes in a row where we haven't really had much gameplay, but like, all of this is really important stuff. So, unfortunately, that is going to be it for today. So, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I will hopefully be making much more Stellaris in the future, especially if you were to say like and subscribe. That would be absolutely incredible and would motivate me to make even more videos on Stellaris. But, until then, I will see you next time. Oh, dear God, we didn't even get into any of these menus. I barely covered anything. Come on.